You're listening to The Mountain Spirit, a podcast of Christian Appalachian Project. I'm a firm believer that we're all connected by our shared humanity, and that finding that intersection sometimes just means having a conversation. Today we're joined by Dr. Geraldine Bard, a co-founder of Project Flight, which is a literacy initiative that's been transforming lives through the power of books for many decades. I am so excited to have her on the show today. Dr. Bard, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You and your colleague, Dr. Betty Capella, launched Project Flight with a bold vision. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start this program, and how did it all come together?
Well, Tina, the best way I can answer this is to look at our backgrounds. Dr. Capella was born in Black Mountain, North Carolina, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. She was separated from her mom during a smallpox outbreak and was raised by her father and grandmother near Buffalo. As the youngest of 16 grandchildren, she grew up in a migrant farming family in New York, learned English when she started kindergarten, as her first language was Italian. She received her doctorate in counseling and at Harvard completed a postdoc in abuse across the lifespan. She's been fighting causes of violence for 30 years, and Project Flight is one expression of that. I was born, on the other hand, in Chicago, Illinois. I was an ill child with asthma, for example. A doctor didn't allow me to play outside at recess time when I was in elementary school, but I was a happy child. I could read at the age of 3, found reading a way to learn about the world. Dr. Capella and I met as colleagues at Buffalo State University, collaborated on education and social justice programs. She specialized in educational psychology, focusing on learning, human development, family, counseling, statistics. My area of expertise is applied linguistics and literacy, specifically emphasizing phonemic awareness in reading instruction. We both shared a dedication to service to the community. Dr. Capella calls it establishing a university without walls, one that's dedicated to improving our community. We're committed to reducing intergenerational poverty by emphasizing family and literacy.
Awesome. I love it. I love just like the personal story, your history that's interwoven into your passion and your calling to make life better for other children. So over the years, Project Flight has actually grown into a wide-reaching initiative. So how has that mission evolved since the early days when you all put this work together? And what are some of the biggest milestones that you remember that you all have achieved doing this work?
It's still the same mission. Our mission statement is that every child have a book rated at grade level. Literacy, we believe, is an entree out of poverty. Literacy is a social justice issue. We deeply believe in the importance of family, and statistics confirm how important that is, and that families in poverty don't fare well generally. The Department of Justice, for example, indicates that the link between poverty and academic failure is high. You have delinquency, you have violence, you have crime, and all of those issues are welded to reading failure. 70% of people in prison have reading skills at or below the 4th grade level. 3 out of 4 people in public assistance can't read beyond the 4th grade level. 85% of juveniles who appear in court are identified as struggling readers. Literacy is so important. The National Assessment of Adult Literacy indicates that 2/3 of students who are struggling readers by the end of the 4th grade will end up in jail or on public assistance. At Project Flight, we collaborate with essential community service organizations, government officials, educational institutions, local media, the public library system where we're housed, to address illiteracy in our community. and to expand literacy opportunities for children at risk. The research shows that access to books and literacy programs enhances literacy development for children and families. So we provide books for at-risk children and their families. Simple. Accordingly, we offer a range of programs designed to assist agencies, schools, religious organizations to improve literacy initiatives. Not only is it the right thing to do, but as Dr. Capella has always said, the legacy of literacy is democracy and freedom. These initiatives support equity, empowerment, and social justice. For example, we have the Project Flight Book Bank, housed in the Central Library in Buffalo, the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. There, we collect donated books, we organize them into age appropriate categories, um, appropriate developmental categories, and we distribute these books to agencies and entities working to empower underprivileged children and families. With our programs, we continue to focus on stemming poverty through educational empowerment, with special emphasis on enhancing the literacy skills of at-risk children. That's what we do.
Well, you mentioned your motto. It also with the book and your website is so powerful. Like the information and talking about the lives that you all have impacted. I know that we got connected through to Project Flight through our program Operation Sharing and the books that they uh,
Absolutely.
donate. And so I know a lot of the work CAP does is through partnerships. So I wonder if you could talk about your sort of the values that guide you all in the work you do and how you the partnerships that you all have built that allow you to continue to do that work and expand your impact.
Well, one partnership is certainly with the Christian Appalachian Program and Project Sharing. And okay, what do we do and why do we do it? We believe that if you teach people to fish, they can feed themselves forever. Obviously, apply this to reading. If we teach people to read, it helps them to be self-sufficient, and they in turn can share their skills with others. You know, when we share with others, we teach others how powerful a feeling it is to share with others. When you share with others, you are saying to yourself, I have more than enough. I
Yeah.
have more than enough. So who really gets the gift? We give it to ourselves by giving it to others. You know, as a kid, my parents would give us, my brother and I, a candy bar because they'd expect us to break it in half and share it. Because no matter what, isn't it good to share a candy bar with somebody
Yeah.
else? Okay. So, why is a book important? So, let me get back to your question. It provides children with access to ideas that they may not encounter. To read a book, all they need is a light source. It's such low technology. Having a book at home lets them practice language skills anytime they wish. And the key question is, why do we say reading in a media infused environment like the one we're using right now? Reading, while it appears to be a straightforward activity, initiates neurological changes, processes in the brain. Initiating those processes because when you read, you must actively interpret those squiggles on the page. So you're now developing your brain, you see, and these processes influence how we think. And not only do they influence how we think, but they develop emotional understanding to what we read about. And not only that, but they help us maintain long-term health, brain health. As we read, our brains forge neural pathways. They strengthen existing connections. They generate new brain cells. It's people go to the gym to mentally work out. When we read, we're mentally to physically work out rather. When we read, we mentally work out. We don't lift weights, we lift ideas. We learn about characters. We learn about other cultures. We learn about other worlds. From what? Something on a page. In other words, the importance of reading in cognitive development cannot be overstated. How else is cognition or thinking enhanced and developed through reading? Learning new words forms fresh cognitive connections in our brains. Reading helps develop memory and concentration. Reading also helps reduce stress. Notice how your mind relaxes when you read something that you simply enjoy. So, if children have no access to books at home, how are they able to exercise these cognitive skills? Research shows that homes of children in poverty lack books. Research shows that children from such homes are often years behind children who live in economically stable circumstances. What do our programs do at Project Flight? With our programs, we seek to level that playing field.
So I love that leveling the playing field for children who may not have access is one of the reasons why I love Dolly Parton's imagination. Where the same kind of concept, like putting
Yes,
books in the hands of kids at a very young age, and I think
yes.
getting kids excited to read. I've done some literacy programs with my kids' schools, and it always hurts my heart when a kid says, "I hate to read" or "I don't." I'm like, books. For me, books open up worlds where I could travel to. I grew up with limited financial means, but books allowed me to travel to places that I never thought I would see as an adult and get exposed to characters and representation, seeing people like me doing the things in books that, I didn't maybe see in my own life. So you had mentioned like some of your partnerships with libraries and things like that to distribute the books. Can you talk a little bit about some of the library partnerships you have and how those partnerships have enabled you all to do your great work?
Well, thank you. We've worked with partners that have allowed us to highlight the need to give at-risk children access to books. For 29 years, we've conducted a public drive called Books for Kids with the motto, "Give a book, touch a life." Our partners include Buffalo State University, where we have worked for so many years, the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library System, the Buffalo News, our hometown paper, WGRZ TV, Channel 2, Wegmans, which is a grocery chain, uh, beloved grocery chain, and local radio stations, WBLK and WYRK. They're part of Town Square Media. The drive encourages the public to donate books so at-risk children who don't have access to books at home can have access. We reach these children by donating books to community established and vetted service agencies, just as CAP does. Uh, these schools, religious institutions, who have programs that serve families in poverty. These entities distribute the books to families and at-risk children they serve. And they range from Salvation Army to the United Way, serving in Erie County. The programs that they uh, uh, are part of their network. For example, the Jericho Road Priscilla Project, community centers such as the Sunnex Street Babcock Community Center, homeless shelters. We partner with vetted organizations that serve as at-risk children, families, and by the way, we also conduct site visits to ensure the books are distributed and used in established programs.
So you've used that term a couple times, at-risk children, for our general listeners who may not work in this space or work with kids, or may have an idea of what they think that means. How do you all define that, and then how do you work to identify the kids, or is that through the partners that you work with of the who is eligible to get the books in your program?
Yeah, the at-risk is determined by federal government in terms of families uh, that are on public assistance in terms of the state, in terms of children identified as being at risk. So they are eligible to receive free food at school that they don't pay for because that's the only hot meal sometimes that they get during the day. Um, we had helped. Let me just give you an example. Uh, we had a youngster by the name of Alicia, which I she was a little 5 year old starting school and impoverished neighborhood. Okay, family that has to make a determination: do I buy a book or do I buy uh, milk for my child? Well, those kinds of families are impoverished, and you know what they do? They buy milk. They don't buy books. And I don't blame them. Yeah. If your child does not get enough nutrition, understand they don't develop. Their bodies don't develop, and their brains don't develop. So that when we have public assistance, when we have programs that offer special funding to women who have very, very young children, we're ensuring that their children can develop physically in a normal way. It's poverty is really a very terrible thing. And what do? We work with agencies like United Way, like Salvation Army, agencies that have identified their cohort of children and families that they serve. We don't do that,
Yeah.
those agencies do. And that's why we work through this community network. It's a network that, Buffalo is a very old community. Back in 1900, apparently Buffalo had more millionaires per capita than even New York City. It was the St. Lawrence Seaway that brought all of that to Chicago. Everyone
Yeah.
used to come to Buffalo to unload everything. So we've got very, very deep social networks in Buffalo where people understand you must reach out to a neighbor. You must reach out and help others. And so we work to support those programs that educate parents, that educate children, and and as we all know, when you talk about poverty, you're talking about not poverty for one generation, you're talking about poverty for many generations. It's called intergenerational poverty.
Yeah, just listening as you were starting to talk about Alicia and parents having to make those decisions about, do I buy a book? And books can be very expensive, even paperback kids' books. As a mom of four, remembering that, and hence is why public libraries are so critical to giving access to
Yes.
kids whose families may not be able to afford a book, but libraries certainly open up access to children. But just thinking about Alicia, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how her story. This is a young girl that was facing many challenges and limited access to books. How do stories like hers shape the urgency and direction of your work?
Well, um, Alicia's issue is that she's in a high poverty area. Okay. Her her issue is that she's going to school with children who live in the same area. She has teachers, and believe I've known so many teachers, and I teach students who are going into English education. Uh, Teachers are good people. Teachers want to save the world. Give me an opportunity to live next door to someone. I'll take a teacher, a librarian, someone in social work any day of the week. That's the kind of human spirit we're dealing with. And at 5 a.m., we received at Project Flight a email. This teacher had written it. This is Alicia's teacher. She had written it at 5 a.m. from her home. And she said, look, here we are in this school. And I've got a friend with fourth grade students. She's got a set of Macmillan readers, but none of the children can read it at that grade level. And our children are not doing well. And my friend is despondent in terms of how can I help my children? My children go home and they can't read at home. What can be done? And so I'm writing to you and I'm hoping for the best. And within 48 hours, we arrived at that school and donated to every single classroom, not just a fourth grade classroom, 100 books so that the teachers would have an in-class library that children could use, check out a book from their own little classroom, take it home, bring it back to school, give it to someone else. In other words, how did that school do at the end of the year? We have these statewide tests. They did better than they did the year before. Did this have an impact? Yes, it did.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This summer, children face hunger with no school meals to count on. No food, no comfort, just hunger that won't go away. Thousands of children in Appalachia faced long days without a single meal. But your gift to Christian Appalachian Project can make a difference. You can help fill empty plates and restore hope. Give now at christianapp.org.
Geraldine, I will have to say we've done, a lot. We've been doing this show now for a couple of years, and this has been the one that has moved my heart the most, because you think about kids and parents who have to make hard choices. And sometimes those are single parent households. These are families at CAP. I started out by telling you before we got on the air that this show isn't really about Christian Appalachian Project. It's about the good work that happens through individuals and other organizations that do good work in Appalachia. But thinking about the work CAP does and parents that are really having to make tough choices. And it may be a parent that is working 2 or 3 jobs, and maybe that's why their kids come into school late, because that parent just got off. And you just think about what kids, if you don't, like, we have pantry networks, and that is one of the things that's trying to make sure that kids have the food that they need, and parents, can put food on the table, and how all those things go together to help a kid. Just the fact, wanting a kid to have the best chance, to have the best life that they can, and wanting them to start out strong. And, a parent shouldn't have to worry about whether I could choose a book for my child or to put food on the table. And so this episode is much more emotional than I thought it would be, but you all have really worked. You've distributed over 3 million books and helped create more than 1,100 libraries. What kind of impact have you seen in the communities that you serve? You clearly have made an impact in that school and in Alicia's life, and it is those lives that maybe inspire us to do greater work. So can you talk about the larger impact beyond this one child in this one school to what Project Flight has been able to do over the decades?
We had a major grant some years ago, and after doing programs with the Buffalo school system, we're told by the head of reading, Linda Smolin, that the scores had improved that year for their children. We are told consistently by agencies who respond to us after we give them a donation that the programs that they mount are help sustained by us, because they're literacy programs, and if they don't have age and content appropriate books, how can they run their programs? And they constantly tell us how necessary we are to the well-being of those they serve. And serve is the absolute focus of what we do.
Yeah, I love that. And your programs are so diverse. You also have Braille libraries. You give to international book donations. How do you ensure that those initiatives that you all undertake remain inclusive and responsive to the different needs that you face in different communities?
Well, we're very fortunate. We're at Buffalo State University. We've had phenomenal presidents of the institution. And Dr. Muriel Howard was absolutely loved by the community and by the state, and she has a reputation. She's head of a major consortium in Washington D.C. Unfortunately, she left, but we've had a number of presidents who are deeply committed to serving the community. Dr. Bonita Durand is our president and absolutely has community at her forefront. So we have always been tied in to community agencies that vet and governmental institutions in the area. How did we come up with the Braille Library? Our Buffalo News, our newspaper. What did they do? 2005, they had an article on Jose Gonzalez, an 8-year-old, blind at birth. His teacher set their class with a task at the beginning of the academic year. Going to read 100 books by the end of the year. Jose could only get a hold of 78 Braille books. 78 Braille books. We read that and contacted the school superintendent, contacted Evelyn Pizarro, who was the principal of the school, and we gave them 500 Braille books. And the school superintendent said, this library will be open to all school children who are part of the Buffalo Public Schools who need them. And a Braille book is an interesting thing because, for example, Jose wanted to read desperately Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And how does he get it? So we got the Harry Potter books as many had been published. And the first one came in a box a foot tall because these are not flat books. They're Braille.
Right.
So you're dealing with, it's not a simple thing getting
Right.
Braille books to children. So that's how we do it. That's how we did that. We work through the communication networks of Western New York. And I have to tell you, Western New York is a very special place. When we might have snow, but I'll tell you, if someone sees you're stuck, whether they know you or not, they get out of their car and they push your car out of the snowbank. That's the kind of neighbors you've got here.
Yeah. Yeah, that what you was a perfect segue into our next question, which is about you all are based in Western New York, and people don't typically think of New York as being in Appalachia. I think most people think all of New York State is like New York City, which it is not. And so Appalachia, we know here at CAP, goes all the way from New York all the way down to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, West Kentucky, all the way down to Mississippi. So I've, of course, looked to in terms of Buffalo and where it falls in the boundaries. But can you talk to us a little bit for people who might say, oh, that's not Appalachia. Can you talk about the comparison between the literacy challenges and opportunities and maybe even the economic challenges of a place like Buffalo in Western New York, and what that has in common with people in Pennsylvania or Kentucky or West Virginia or even Mississippi?
Poverty. You've got, if you kids count, the Kids Count data book looks at children throughout the United States on a yearly basis. And in 2025, in Appalachia, as well as Buffalo, New York, approximately 40 to 46% of the kids live in poverty. Why in Buffalo? Buffalo, we had heavy industry. We don't have heavy industry anymore. Now, what do these people do? You have heavy industry. You have jobs that allow a family to send kids to school, to do all sorts of things. You don't have that. So that hits a lot of people. You know, the United States does a lot of manufacturing, but a lot of that manufacturing today is done by robots. Okay. So you used to have in the 1950s, as you know, and in the 1960s, that whole line would be staffed by people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what's going on. So how do these people, how do people who have not been as successful readers get the skills to get jobs that allow them to live a comfortable, safe life in a community where their children are free to walk and play and not worry about issues of safety because they're living in a high poverty area? What do you do when you have teenagers like we have, who so many teenagers don't have a job and they're not in school? What does that do to that community? It's These are issues that we all face, and our perspective at Project Flight, the way we approach this, because those issues evoke violence and all sorts of terrible things. Um, we use literacy. Remember, reading is brain development. And when you have a youngster reading, they're developing their brain, they're exercising their brain. And that gives them a chance. That gives
Yeah.
them a chance. You know, people are so divorced from reading. We'll go into homes where there's a family Bible on the table. And we say, hey, do you read? No. You don't read? No. Do you go to Bible study? Oh, yeah. What was like? Oh, well, I was reading. They don't associate even reading that they love, that feeds their spirit, with the process of reading. That's how divorced they are from that. So we work to marry them back to that, have them understand how important it is.
So tell me, I feel like we touched on this a little bit earlier. How do you see literacy as social justice?
It is through literacy that we can learn about others. We learn to think. We learn to be critical thinkers. It opens our literacy, allows us to see, once you start thinking, you start being able to understand things like hypocrisy. Let's say that somebody is saying X, 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 and X, and you see them doing that exact thing. They're saying X is bad, but they're doing the same thing. So you've got a critical thought there. My gosh, that's a contradiction. Literacy allows cognitive development. And cognitive development is critical because a lot of people that I know really don't like hypocrisy, but not everybody understands how to spot it. That's one example.
Yeah, love
The
it.
other the other thing is, of course, with reading, you learn about others, you learn about worlds unlike your own. And and so frequently you learn that people are really the same, they're not different. The differences are like superficial.
When you were a kid, who was one of your favorite authors or one of your favorite books?
Well, Winnie the Pooh, what can I tell you? It was just you had all the personalities, including Eeyore, and you just had a sense that life was good. And there's always a pot of honey, and no matter what, it's okay.
What a good reminder. Life is good. There's always a pot of honey. Love it, love it. Dr. Bard, I have so enjoyed our time together, and we always end our show with this question for our guests. The mission of Christian Appalachian Project is building hope, transforming lives, and sharing Christ's love through service. When you think about your work in literacy, hope, transformation, love, and service, which one of these values resonates with you the most deeply and why?
Each one does. And frankly, in my view, Christian Appalachian Project's mission perfectly expresses Christ's message of service to others and perfectly expresses Christian Appalachian Project's contribution to our lives. CAP truly expresses Christ's love through service, which does what? It transforms lives, enables hope to emerge through the myriad programs it supports. And by the way, I have to say, I'm deeply grateful to Brian Conley for his compassionate and unwavering support. And I give a heartfelt thank you to you, Tina, for all your invaluable help with this podcast. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. In my view, Cap, you and Brian are all doing Christ's work, planting trees throughout the land.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I told you, this has been one of my most. And I love books. I love to read. Of course, I write, but this has been one of the most powerful episodes for me personally. And I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your heart and your mission with us and with our listeners today. Your work is a powerful reminder that literacy is more than just reading. It's about dignity, it's about opportunity, and it's about justice. And I thank you and your colleague for the work you do to change the lives of families, children, and adults in Buffalo. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You are so welcome, and thank you. God bless.
Our guest today has been Dr. Geraldine Bard. She is co-founder of Project Flight. It is a literacy initiative that's been transforming lives through the power of books for decades. We hope that you have enjoyed this show as much as I have enjoyed this show today, and that you will check out next week's episode. Please tell your friends about it and about this episode, but also about the show. And as always, you can follow the work of Christian Appalachian Project on all of our social media platforms to learn more about what CAP is doing to help families in need in Appalachia. You can also find the podcast at wearecap.org/podcast or wherever you get your favorite podcast. And if you like the show, please don't forget to leave us a review. You know that we'd appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. We'll see you next week.